OpenAI chatbot can flirt, and they are getting sued for it. The end of Google search as we know it. OpenAI safety team dissolved. Now what? And universal income is inevitable according to this AI godfather. Those are the topics we'll cover today on AI Newsroom. Welcome. Hey, Edgar.
Yeah, welcome also from me. This was our new intro. Like, tell us in the comments if you did like it or not. We'll love to hear your opinion on that. We're working also some visuals too, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
It was exciting weeks. And like we had the Google I/O, we had the OpenAI event, we had Microsoft Build. Which just has a lot of potential, especially the build event. I think got a lot of interesting stuff, but we won't talk about this. The build event will be a separate video. So
Yes.
for now, we want to talk about Google and OpenAI. And let's start with the flirting part, which I don't know who has seen the GPT-4.0 release or reveal. It really was something, and it was, first and foremost, it was really flirty. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure not everyone likes that style because it's not as cold anymore. It's basically the complete opposite. But yeah, let's first talk about what happened. So GPT-4.0 was announced, and the O stands for Omni. Omni means basically multimodality, and they took the GPT-4 model and they trained it on also audio and images and also video, I think. And what this enables you to do is not like you do it at the moment. When you talk to your ChatGPT app, you can talk to it already, and you have already the voices in there. But what it does is it takes the audio, translates it to text, takes the text for the actual like inference or for the AI call, and gives you back the result as text, which then is again transcribed to audio. This has two major drawbacks. Which one is that you have added latency because you have all these transformation steps in between of getting the answer. And the other is you lose a lot of stuff because in the text there is no emotion, there is no there is no feelings, nothing like what you can read like from in between the lines. So if you have a true multimodal model, you can do that, because if it really gets the audio and not only the contents of the audio, you have other possibilities.
Yeah, no, and I think that's just going back to your comment about like even personalities. I think ChatGPT, I would be surprised if they don't come up with options. And I think now, covering some of the things that we're going to cover shortly, I think they'll have to provide some options for people to kind of also dial up or dial down the flirtiness. But I think you're right. I think having that personality and being able to chat and be able to exhibit those personalities in your text, I mean, that is very hard to do with technology, but it's just very impressive what they've done. I think you're going to show a video of some of that conversation. I think this would be really cool.
I think I cannot really tone it down. I hope it's not too loud, but yeah.
Office or something. Well, can you take a guess at what I might be doing based on what I'm showing you here?
From what I can see, it looks like you're in some kind of recording or production setup. With those lights, tripods, and possibly a mic, it seems like you might be gearing up to shoot a video or maybe even a live stream.
Yeah. In fact, we've got a new announcement to make.
That's exciting. Announcements are always a big deal. Judging by the setup, it looks like it's going to be quite the professional production. Is this announcement related to OpenAI, perhaps?
It is. And in fact, what if I were to say that you're related to the announcement, or that you are the announcement?
Me? The announcement is about me? Well, color me intrigued.
Me?
Are you about to reveal something about AI? Or more specifically about me as a part of OpenAI? You've got me on the edge of my, well, I don't really have a seat, but you get the idea. What's the big news?
Yeah, so you get it. So some things to notice here, like he was able to interrupt the answer,
Yeah.
which wasn't possible before. He was able to just show the video, and it just gets a lot of info from that. Before we go on, I would love to switch to another tab, because basically on the next day we got the Google I/O, and Google presented Project Astra, which was basically the same thing. Google didn't show it live with what OpenAI did, but in the end, it was pretty close. They have some additional features, so you can actually mark stuff on screen, and it's more like an AR experience. And also, what they showed here was she was going around asking stuff, doing conversation, and then she asked, like, I lost my glasses, and do you remember if you have seen them anywhere in the video? And then he remembers that he has seen the glasses like 2 minutes earlier, and was pointing her to the in the direction where to look. Which was really impressive. Like having memory and cache in there really seems interesting.
But the more I kind of think about this, I feel like it's still. Well, tell me what you think. I feel like that's kind of staged. Don't you think so? So she's walking
Yeah, of
around the
course.
office,
Yeah,
and
of
is
course.
that the only pair of glasses that you're going to have? But again, it's positioned as if like this is the first time that they're
Yeah.
actually showing
Yeah,
the
I
system.
think
So
if you're Google, you're in a weird position. Like you're this huge mega company, and like was it like 2 years ago where they failed to do a proper AI demo?
like with
And
Bard.
I think it was a Bard, yeah, and they lost like 10 billion in value, like from only
Yeah.
that. So that's like that's a bit like the tension where Google's like in. So I get that they don't show a lot of stuff live. I think, but they did also some live demoing with like. With the long player, like so yeah, kind of
I
interesting.
think.
The thing is, it both companies at the same time introducing this new way to interact with AI. I found it pretty interesting.
So I think with maybe with the word stage, I think that they've actually run this demo multiple times to teach the
Yeah.
system to recognize that, hey, these are my
I don't think so.
glasses.
They,
Because
they,
how else would
I
they
think,
know? Like, what if there's multiple
yeah.
pairs of glasses, like in the office, or someone like puts sunglasses down and like
Yeah.
then
So that was interesting. It wasn't sunglasses. It was a pair of goggles with some AR experience, because Google has like some development tooling for AR experience. So it was like kind of Google Glass 2, but they didn't call it that, and they didn't announce any product. They just showed it to kind of, yeah. So you get an idea, which in and of itself has to be edited in there. So yeah, take all of that with a grain of salt, like always. On the other hand, OpenAI had some issues with the demo, like with some sound interrupting during the demo, but they didn't care a lot, so I wasn't sure if it's maybe from the stream or the audio feed we got. But yeah. One thing I would love to mention with the OpenAI stuff is that it is able, I think you have like, yeah, this one is interesting. So he like lets one AI talk with the other, and he is also in the conversation, and that is really interesting. The AI who has to answer the questions, the other AI is giving questions, or like questioning, and the other AI should answer, and he's interrupting, and the both AIs know who's speaking and to whom to talk back and when to be silent, and I think that's hugely impressive.
Yeah, the power of context. I know you talk about that a lot. Understanding who's speaking.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things, just going back to like the inference speed, and I think OpenAI is very impressive in that you can interrupt kind of, and you don't have to like really experience the pause to wait for like that inference or basically that processing to happen for you to get a response back. She could be talking, in this case, I forget the name of like the OpenAI's bot, but the you can interrupt, and then she just kind of resumes talking. She takes it as context.
Yeah.
With Google, I think that's the big thing that I saw was very obvious was the time between the ending of the prompt. You have to wait a few seconds for that response to come back. So it is much more intuitive, I think, with what OpenAI came
Yeah.
up, and very impressive. But then I think, as you mentioned, like the context, the emotions, like it was
The
just
awareness, the general
they have
awareness.
so many more layers of that onion, like added above and beyond what Google had proposed. Like the Google's technology is really impressive too. I think that there's things that their program can do, but as far as it truly becoming something that users will value and truly kind of experience that human to like almost like a realistic human experience, like a customer service agent, I think OpenAI, I mean, clearly wins in this case.
Yeah. And also, just to add it here, I've seen just a pure image test, like recognizing images and their contents from the new Gemini 1.5 and GPT-4.0, and Gemini is not even close. Like, I think he did like 10. No, he did 8 tests. GPT-4.0 was successful on 7 of them. Google has had 2. Like that's a huge disparity. I think the only thing, like solving a math question, like both of them got it wrong, but that wasn't like perfect. So they're still struggling with math. In general, the API does not allow for voice synthesizing right now, or like for voice inference right now. They will add it in next week. So just stay tuned for that. But one thing you might notice is like the voice, at least to some people, sounded kind of familiar. To be honest, for me, not, but for her.
Who is this
this mysterious
suspicious woman?
Suspicious woman, right? This is my one of my favorite actresses from the Marvel universe, Scarlett Johansson. Me not recognizing the voice as hers, I was kind of shocked that people got this to a degree, because if you really have like a side-by-side comparison, they're not the same, to be completely honest.
But I think that they compared it to a specific movie where she was the voice actress behind it, and it did sound like, I mean, of course, she's going to project, or she's going to, vary her voice if she sounds. She voices over like a Disney movie, she'll sound a little bit slightly different. So I do think, depending on like what you're comparing it to, you are going to find a lot of similarities.
She had also, like, I think family and producers writing her and saying like, "Hey, you're like gave your voice to that," and she was, "No, I didn't." And I think that's the interesting part. She actively declined. It's because they were asking her 2 times, I guess, for the voice stuff. What they then did was kind of interesting. I don't know if it's said in the article too, but they've taken like 400 actresses for or actors and actresses for getting their voice into ChatGPT, and having had them just say sentences, and from that they chose 5, and one of which was, I think it was Sky called. The Sky voice is removed as of now, and they have like a legal battle like with Scarlett Johansson over that. And I found it kind of interesting because this voice actress, for her, she get paid for that over market rates, supposedly. That's what OpenAI says, and she also gets paid as long as they use it. And now this actress is getting basically screwed over because her voice sounded too much like that of Scarlett Johansson, and that I find not really fair, to be honest.
Well, I think it's just circumstances, right? I feel like she felt that her voice was very close. People were recognizing it. And I don't know that she was the first ones to notice. It was her friends and family, as you mentioned, like contacted her and said like, "Oh, that's eerily similar to your voice." And she made the connections to like, oh, well, OpenAI or Sam Altman even reached out to her directly and asked. And I want to say, I don't know if it's in this paper or somewhere else that I read, actually, like the day before the launch event, they contacted her again. And she basically, again, there was just too many recurring themes happening. And then the voice came out that is very similar. And I think everything just seems to connect. It was not just very, I don't want to say like unintentional, like it's accidental that it happened for you to consider that unfair. If she wasn't contacted and they
Yeah, I
came out
don't
with this
know.
voice and be like,
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know, because how OpenAI stated it, I believe they did it like this with all the auditioning, and they, of course, they will find someone who sounds as close as they can find to Scarlett Johansson's voice. And what will you do about that? Like every judge is looking at this, seeing that there is an actual voice actress, and they did actually use that voice. What will Scarlett Johansson do? So,
Well, think about it this way. So, like, what if what truly happened was that some Altman passively aggressively said, "Oh, you don't want to give us your voice. You don't want to. You don't allow us to purchase it. Watch what we're gonna do." And I think that's maybe how she perceived it as well.
What is there anything else to do than watch? Because, like I said, if that's an actual actress with her actual voice, in an actual proper deal, what should Scarlett Johansson do? But that's not like they cloned it out of the Avengers movies, right? So,
but this is kind of similar to like these models being trained without creators' permission to use their artwork in like the training of their models, right? Like there's so many lawsuits with creators.
But that's not what happened this time.
But the output was eerily similar to
that doesn't
her
matter.
Actual voice.
So why? So it's like is your voice acting, because that's a professional actor that she does that for a living, and her acting cannot be used, and she cannot make money from it just because her voice sounds like Scarlett Johansson's voice. That's not fair at all.
I think we need our audience to decide, are you guys team Svetlana or are you team Edgar on this? Because I think that we definitely are not going to come to a consensus. I totally think that OpenAI purposefully kind of did it, and Scarlett should be actually reimbursed, or at least they need to settle somehow.
Wouldn't
Edgar
you
feels
like
that
if you are Sam Altman and you want this to be her from the movie Her, and Scarlett doesn't want to do it, wouldn't you do the same? Like I would have done the same too. Like why not? And I don't even think it sounds
zag.
too close.
If you wanted to zig and that plan A doesn't work, you zag and you'd be like, okay, well, what would be the alternative? If this doesn't work, let's do our research, start from like whatever scratch, and maybe go with a male voice instead. Like,
no, why? I know. Like if I want to sell, and that's what he actively does. Like he wants to sell the Her AI movie type of thing. That's why it's so flirty in the first place. So I
could give you so many examples. So, for example, another tech example, just go to when Apple iPhones were released. So iPhone came out with this touchscreen display with apps and stuff like that. Samsung followed and released, a similar phone that looks, in certain countries, there's still lawsuits in place because they're like, oh, well, the curve of the edge is very similar.
And
you can't say that it wasn't purposeful.
But they lost it in the end, didn't they?
I mean, they continued to fight them because every country has their own kind of like IP laws, but that's kind of the intent, is like, you just release something that is very similar to the original, and you can't say it wasn't purposeful. Like, you can't just say like, oh, it accidentally happened that we just released this phone that looks like iPhone.
There is no accident. Like, even if they would say like, yeah, we tried to copy her voice and we found an actress with the same voice, that isn't illegal. Like, it's a voice of a human being that consentfully gave it to OpenAI. What should you do about it?
Yeah. All right. We're not going to come to a consensus, but comment below.
Okay.
Team Lana or Team Svetlana or Team Edgar. I would love to know what you guys think.
Yeah, me too. So just staying for a little second with Google. Google also added generative AI into search finally. Bing does it already. And they rolled it out in the US. I don't know if it's already in Europe. I don't think so. But what it does is basically, if you now search something on Google, it gives you a result like curated by AI, and it's forced upon you. So if you don't want this and just want to do classical Google search, you're as well.
No, but I think that there's so I've actually had I signed up I think for the early trial, so I've actually had this functionality for quite some time. I've just gotten to learn it a little bit more, to experience it. If your prompt or if your search term is phrased as a question, I think that's when the chatbot is enabled. Sometimes it kicks off when there's a keyword that's probably most like best summarized.
Interesting. Okay.
But most cases, like if you just type in like a single term or just like a phrase that's like you don't really understand the intent of what the heck you're asking, you're going to get the standard kind of traditional Google search results. But yeah. So that enhancement applies to the questions. Yeah.
But yeah, like the search experience in and of itself. So it might be like that's actually a good point. I'm not sure if it's only with questions, or like something like this. Like explain that to me. That's that actually might be an option. So, but yeah, like I said, it's basically if you are in there, you're in there, and you have the AI generation directly at the top. I would have wished that it's optionally on the side so that I can opt in rather than like getting it like in front of my face. It's also I'm not sure what if I were a Google ad customer, if I would what I would think about it if my sponsored content, which I still pay for, gets like down just with the AI search. So I'm not sure like what I would think as an ad, like someone doing ads
because it's no longer like above the fold.
Yeah, like something. It's no longer the first thing you see, right? Yeah, but as far as I understand, it's still kind of lab function, right? I don't know why this is green, but yeah. Okay, but yeah, that's for Google for now. AI search. If you have any experience, let us know, because I don't have it here in Europe. You already used it. By the way, did you find it helpful? Is it like precise at least?
Depends. If I'm looking for, so there's a few use cases for why I think it's helpful. So again, if it's a quick question, something that I'm looking out, like let's say for a standard, or I don't know, like what's the average temperature in whatever in at like this point in time. So I just need some fact like to be answered kind of quickly. But if I'm looking for deep dive on a specific topic and I'm trying to get like alternative opinions, I think what, as you know, like large language models, they're averages. Like there's law of averages that they follow. They're just going to take the most kind of likely answer to your questions to just kind of meet but not exceed your expectations. So for things that I'm still researching, I'm still going through the Google results and I'm trying to find and curate unique information. So I don't actually find for research kind of like, you know, getting different perspectives, like the generation that helpful. But that's true of other chatbot systems too. Like I find that in order for you to really get unique perspectives, like you can't just rely on LLMs.
Okay. Yeah, that stays the same. What I found, honestly, that the grounding algorithms of Perplexity were kind of fine. But yeah, RIP Perplexity at that point.
But they still continue to get funding. I think even though you texted me, I mean, I think that people are still kind of wondering.
It's a bit over exaggerated. I'll give you that. Definitely.
But maybe the reason why it gets funding is because maybe they'll get bought out by one of the other search engines, right? Like
might be. Yeah. Oh, they just need like one deal with Apple, right? So and then they're good to go.
Apple, maybe Yahoo, like Bing, whoever, you know, needs an upgrade in their technology.
Ridiculous that Yahoo is still thing.
Okay, I mean, they could fight for that market share.
let's not drag this on too long because we are already approaching our time. I would love to have one other really, really interesting article which we found on CNBC. OpenAI dissolves team focused on long-term AI risks less than 1 year after announcing it. This all started a bit with the Ilya Sutskever leaving OpenAI, which was kind of like everyone was waiting for that. Because after what happened like in the end of last year, he hadn't had the best position in the company, to say the least. And now that that not only he left, but also the lead, I think it was Jan Lakey. I don't know. Like it's obviously a German name, like Jan Leike. But yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it in English. And he was the lead of said team. And he wasn't like Ilya Sutskever was really diplomatic when leaving. Jan wasn't. He was like, "Oh yeah, thanks for the work, and OpenAI, you are all incredible, but yeah, beware."
Yeah.
Of the
upcoming risks.
Yeah. He actually told the AI team like, please think about what you're doing there and about the dangers, which was kind of dramatic to be honest. And that really got people questioning like, what is OpenAI actually doing behind closed doors? And then in addition to that, they also dissolve the AI risk team, which like the Jan was leading, and the people either left or were put into other teams. That's at least
they're removing the guardrails to just go all in on AGI.
I think that like there was a lot of speculation when Sam Altman was fired by his board that's not what that he's not aligned with the others on the AI safety and how much effort should be put in. There were also Jan said like he was fighting for compute, so for their research, so they assigned a lot of compute to the generative AI and then next GPT version stuff, and like people in OpenAI are fighting for compute to test and research on AI risks. So I'm not sure if this whole topic is as hot as people make it. To be honest, I'm also not the biggest fan of all the AI doomists because I think what people oftentimes miss, and that's pure my opinion right now, but what people oftentimes miss is like AI doesn't have an intention. It doesn't have instincts. It doesn't have all the stuff that makes us people and animals do what we do.
But maybe that's what's scary, because what if it's just going on automation? It's the big question about the paperclip factory, right? Optimizing everything to become the paperclips without understanding kind of the human intention behind it. Is that dangerous? But I think, as you mentioned,
core principles. I think there is risk potentially in being misused by other humans. That's the biggest risk, and that has definitely implications. I'm also the biggest proponent of societal risks, and talking about societal risks, I would love to lead to our next topic and last topic, which is universal basic income. And the AI godfather, I think it's a strange name from my perspective, but his Professor Geoffrey Hinton, he was at Google, and he left Google like I think a year ago, because he was and I think it says it somewhere in the article, but basically he was like,
I don't see the article on my end.
So sorry. Now
there you go. Yep.
Yeah. This is Professor Geoffrey Hinton. He left Google because he wanted to speak more freely about AI and the risks of AI. And he is like deep down for like decades laying the foundational work for what is AI today. So you could say he's he's really good informed about the technology itself. And he says, and also not only in this article, but he also consults people on Downing Street, which is, I think, the government seat in the UK, on universal basic income. And it's something that's near and dear to me, because I'm saying this like for years now. I think at least like since 2018. When I first like thought about it, that we will need universal basic income when AI gets really into the business world, because so many jobs will fall away, and if we don't somehow get these people food in their refrigerator, we will have a problem, like a big one. And yeah, that's what I was thinking a long time, and that seeing that being told by someone who actually has some knowledge about AI that's a lot deeper than my own. Found it kind of interesting.
And I think just for those who don't know what the heck we're referring to as UBI, or the Universal Basic Income. So according to Investopedia, it's the concept of government program in which every adult citizen received a set amount of money regularly. And this is to alleviate poverty and replace other needs social program.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't state it here, but one of the kind of calls for this is because of a lot of automation that AI promises. And so if people are losing their job due to AI process automation, AI taking over kind of like products, maybe the service deliveries, there's going to be a lot of people without jobs. So how do they maintain, kind of some of their life purchasing kind of decisions? Yeah. It's through this universal basic income, which without borders will be applicable to everyone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah, and I think there is also some people propose versions where everyone, like not every adult, but everyone gets it. But I think that's dumb. I think like giving it to adults is like, and having like extra for children that might do the trick. But yeah, it's basically there's a lot of pros and cons. We like in Germany, at least, we have all the time some studies and people trying this out, and then finance this by a nonprofit donations and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's a really controversial topic. I think it's inevitable. So I'm with him on that. And yeah, that's at least my opinion.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed this, I think we need to kind of wrap this up, because we are kind of getting on our longer end. But if you really like this episode, any feedback for us, comment below. Would love to continue to grow with you and cover the topics that are of interest to you. Don't forget to subscribe if you found this information really helpful to you. And I hope we'll see you on the next one. But any lasting parting words with you, Edgar?
Yeah, definitely. Let me quickly stop the screen share. You will find, I think here you will find the next video, which was our last podcast episode. Really interesting. Have a look at it. Here you find our channel. Please subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like on the video. We would really appreciate it. That said, I wish you all a pleasant day and goodbye.
Thank you.